MOBB, stand up. We in the building. It's your man Louie T. Thank you for joining me here on a Mob Squad exclusive. Watch the football team studs and duds for week number 2 in the National Football League. We'll talk about some of the good, the bad, and the ugly from the week 2 contest versus the New York Giants. We'll start with the good, and we start with the studs in week number 2. And first person to me that sticks out like a sore thumb is Taylor Heineke. Now, hopefully when the NFL gets their act together, you'll be able to kind of have the all 22 film breakdown on Patreon coincide with this studs and duds video, and you'll be able to go back and forth between the two. I started to put some film together with this. I just ran out of time. But I'll try to give you the examples, because if you watch the game, if you have it on record at home, or you have access to it on the NFL.com's Game Pass, and you can go get a 7-day free trial, if you like. Anyway, you can go and access it and see exactly what I'm referring to, because again, I'm not looking at the all 22s. I'm talking about the TV copy. So Taylor Heineke is the first guy that is a stud in this football game. Obviously, his first start of the season, coming in relief of Ryan Fitzpatrick in week number 1. All eyes were on Heineke. How was he going to play on a big stage, similar to the one he started in last year, the playoff game at home versus Tampa? Another opportunity in front of a national TV audience to show what he is capable of, and I thought he took full advantage of the opportunity. Started a little slow in the football game, as the entire team did, but he really picked it up. And again, if not for the offense's ability to keep pace with the Giants in this game, who scored on 7 straight possessions. I can't state that enough. I don't care that, 5 of those 7 possessions were field goals. They scored on 7 straight possessions. I mean, it's hard to win in this league when you can't get stops and you're allowing your opponent to score on 7 straight possessions. That said, Heineke and this offense did exactly that. Keeping pace with the Giants. Heineke was phenomenal. On 46 attempts, he completed 32 passes for well over 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Did have what felt like in the moment soul-crushing pick, but this is the thing that you have to love, and this is the reason he finds himself on this list of studs, is because in the past with Washington quarterbacks, we've seen where that play right there would have defined them in this game. If that were Kirk Cousins, I don't know if we go back down the field and score the game-winning field goal. If that were any other quarterback here, if Ryan Fitzpatrick were here, we wouldn't have even been in that position, I don't think, to have a chance to win the football game. I could be wrong. He could have made more plays throughout the game than Heineke did. At the end of the day, Alex Smith wouldn't have put us in that position. I'm not sure Kyle Allen puts us in that position or not. The bottom line is, you like to see a guy rebound from some adversity. And you can't get any more adversity in a game than that. You think you have a chance to win, you're up 1, you got a chance to run out the clock, and you throw an interception that feels like is going to allow the other team to win the football game. Similar to the week prior against the Chargers. We're in control of the game, we're up, and Antonio Gibson fumbles the football. The game-winning score by the Chargers ends up being the difference in the game, 20-16. That kind of felt like that in the moment. But the defense gets to stop. He gets another opportunity, and he took full advantage of that opportunity. So Taylor Heineke was phenomenal in the game, and I think he's really making a case to be the guy, whether Ryan Fitzpatrick is healthy or not. We will see. He's got to continue to stack consistent performances like the one on Thursday night on top of each other, but that's a great start. Despite the interception, you like to see how he responded to that adversity. Taylor Heineke, a stud for Washington in week number 2. How about Terry McLaurin? You talk about Taylor Heineke, you don't need to go any further than Terry McLaurin. 14 targets. Of the 46 passing attempts by Taylor Heineke in week number 2, 14 of them went in the direction of Terry McLaurin, and 11 of them ended up in the number 1 wide receiver's hands. Terry was phenomenal in this football game, made play after play, and really put stress on the Giants defense. They thought they were going to put James Bradbury on him and take him away, and instead Terry abused their number 1 cornerback, who was a Pro Bowler a season ago. Went after him mano a mano and won a big share of those matchups, including a touchdown grab in front of Bradbury in the middle of the end zone to get Washington on the board for the first time in the game and knot it up at 7 apiece. So when you look at what Terry was able to do, he was a calming and stabilizing force for this offense. When things started to look a little bit uneven or a little bit shaky, they could go to Terry and he would make a big play. A great example of that, the Giants take a 23-17 lead. We come out in the second half. Remember, we struggle. Okay, the Giants come out of the halftime break, and they, matter of fact, it was 20-14. The Giants scored 10 unanswered points to start the second half. We came out sputtering, couldn't find our footing in the second half, and the Giants took full advantage. We were up 14-10. They scored 10 unanswered, and then you find Terry on a slant, and he picks up a good gain of maybe 22, and that gets the offense jump-started once again. So, Terry was huge in this game, made the last catch to put us in comfortable field goal range of what we thought would be a makeable field goal for Dustin Hopkins at 48. He ultimately missed, got the mulligan 5 yards closer, and banged it home. So Terry was outstanding. This is what we expect from our number one wide receiver, and he delivered in a major way. Terry McLaurin, definitely a stud in this game. How about J.D. McKissic? This is a guy that I was really disappointed with the staff for not getting him more involved in week one. One of my biggest talking points after week one's loss to the Chargers was we got to get our playmakers involved. And J.D. McKissic is one of those playmakers, okay? Terry McLaurin being one of the guys that I didn't think had enough opportunities in week one. J.D. McKissic really didn't have any opportunities in week number one. He did not get a ton of playing time, didn't get a ton of reps, snaps, opportunities. They didn't do the things that they had done all year last year, which was scheme up opportunities for J.D. McKissic, put him in the game and put him in some situations where he could be successful. They realized that, and I think they heard a lot of people like myself, like you out there saying, what the hell is going on with no J.D. McKissic? They fixed that in week two, and he was massive in the game, had a 46-yard catch among his 5 catches, also had a rushing touchdown and a slew of good runs. Could have had even more success on the ground had he not tripped over his own feet as he often does, okay? But J.D. McKissic was fantastic in the game, and we need to see more of that from him. He was huge. None of his plays were any bigger than the catch down the sidelines, down 26-20 to really jumpstart that 2-play drive that ultimately gave Washington a 27-26 lead. You could also talk about him on that final drive of the game. Offensively, he was huge, including a catch to set up a 4th and 1 and then a 4th down run to convert and move the stakes. McKissic was outstanding in this game. He's definitely a stud, bouncing back from a very quiet week number 1. The offensive line, I talked about this in the overtime series, how a lot of times we don't give the offensive line enough credit. The only time we talk about the offensive line, we treat them a lot of times like they're specialists. The only time we talk about the specialists is if they do something wrong. We don't talk about long snappers. We don't talk about the holder or the punter or the field goal kicker a lot of times unless they botch something. Well, the same can be said for the offensive lines. A lot of times it's a thankless job. I want to make sure I do my part to make sure that they feel appreciated because they were outstanding. I talked about one of the keys to the game being that the Giants defensively don't really get after the quarterback. They're not a high pressure team. They don't have a lot of studs up front to get after the quarterback. So we shouldn't be giving up tons of pressure to the Giants. And they didn't allow a lot of pressure from the Giants. They allowed 1 sack, and Heineke, you could argue, ran into that sack, and I think he did run into that sack on the first 3rd down of the game. And then really they opened up holes in the run game all night long for this Washington rushing attack. Antonio Gibson averaged up over 5 yards a carry. J.D. McKissic had some great hits in the run game, including a touchdown run right before the half. When we had to run it, we were able to, and I thought this offensive line in particular was phenomenal. And I love watching the young fella, Sam Cosmi, at the right tackle position do his thing. He is coming along quite nicely despite the personal foul penalty. That's one thing I talked about when he was drafted is he ducks his head a lot of times. If he can, kind of eliminate that from his game, he's looking really good on the edge. He'll have some bigger tests throughout the course of the season. The Giants really didn't pose one to him. But I thought after a slow start against Bosa and the Chargers, I thought he was really good and rock solid. in the second half of that game, and it transferred over into the Giants game. I thought the offensive line as a whole was fantastic. A great example of them blocking on the ground in particular. Go look at that play right before the half, last play of the touchdown drive where Heineke, and this is another thing that you talk about with Taylor Heineke, not just the stats and him throwing the football, but also getting you into the right plays and against the right looks. He saw that the Giants had a light box, saw that there was an advantage to the left side of the offense, right side of the Giants defense, and he checks to a run to J.D. McKissic. Look at the offensive line blocking on that play. It is phenomenal. J.D. McKissic essentially goes into the end zone untouched. Great job by Charles Leno Jr. on that play. Great job by the interior of the offensive line to really cave in the Giants' defensive front and create a massive opening for McKissic to essentially stroll into the end zone. The offensive line, I thought, was fantastic in this game. Jonathan Allen, I thought of all of the defensive players, he was the one guy that consistently gave us maximum production, not effort, because I thought we got effort across the board on the defensive side of the football. That's not the question with this team. It's about production. He was one of the lone guys on the defensive side of the football that consistently produced in the game. Had 2 sacks on the evening. Also had a couple of tackles at or near the line of scrimmage. I thought he was stout in the run game. Thought he did some really good things. Thought he pressured Daniel Jones on some other plays where he didn't actually hit home, but did pressure Jones on one particular play. I can remember you had an open receiver down the field that ultimately the Giants got a pass interference penalty on William Jackson III. But if not for the pressure of a Jonathan Allen on that play to get in Jones's face, I think he puts that ball on the money, and it's still a touchdown despite the pass interference penalty that was called. Ultimately, they have to settle for a field goal even after the pass interference was called on Washington. So, again, Allen's presence was felt. Thought he was very active up front and made things happen. He was a stud in this game. You get to the honorable mentions when you talk about studs in this game. Montez Sweat. You know, it's funny, we talked about the lack of pressure, lack of this, lack of that. You go back and watch that first half. Look how many times we either hit, pressured, or sacked Daniel Jones in that first half. We were in his face, and one of the guys really in his face was Montez Sweat, who did bag Daniel Jones. And you could argue that that was a half a sack that he could have shared with Chase Young, but it didn't matter. They gave it to Montez Sweat. He was phenomenal in the game in terms of pressures. He just was a step late. That was it. Couple of twists underneath and some stunts. I thought he did some really good things in terms of getting to Daniel Jones. He just continued to find himself being there just a tad bit late, but he did apply a ton of pressure, put Daniel Jones on the ground several times throughout the game. And so even though Jones seemed comfortable back there, he did take a beating, and Montez Sweat was one of the guys that continuously put him on the seat of his pants. Jamin Davis. There are 2 plays in particular that I'm really excited about, and you should too. You should be too if you are looking for development and growth from Jamin Davis. I want you to go to the 5-minute mark of the second quarter. All right, this is my favorite play from Jamin Davis in his young NFL career to this point. This is why we drafted him, to be honest with you. So he's in coverage against the Giants slot receiver, Sterling Shepard, who absolutely destroyed us in this game. Shepard is running what we call a whip route. Okay, you call it anything you want. I call it a whip route. Some people call it a Z out. You can call it a number of different things. Anyway, it's a route where you fake like you're going outside, you go inside, or you fake like you're going inside, you go outside. So Jamin Davis is standing inside with inside leverage against Sterling Shepard, and Shepard runs right over the middle of the field, acts as if he's going outside, and then comes inside. Jamin Davis doesn't bite. He doesn't budge. He holds his ground. And soon as Shepard makes his move over the middle of the field, he breaks, makes the tackle 2-3 yards short of the first down, forces the Giants to have to settle for a field goal. Massive play. I assure you, if that's John Bostic, that's a touchdown. He bites all over the move to the outside, and the inside is then open, and he walks into the end zone. That's a massive play because, again, you win the game by 1. Instead of them settling for 3, they get 6. Tack on the extra point, it's 7. It's a totally different ball game. So big play by Jamin Davis there. And then the very first play after the interception was thrown by Heineke, On 1st and 10, the Giants try to run the football. And I want you to look at Jamin Davis. We've talked about him being timid in the run game, not shooting his gun, not coming downhill and being aggressive. That's what you want from him. He comes down, meets Saquon Barkley, 1 yard past the line of scrimmage, gain of 1. I mean, and absolutely destroys him, puts him down, no more yards, no yards after contact, none of that. Destroys him, puts him down, 1 yard gain. That's what you want to see from Jamin Davis. He's growing like what I saw in that game. He was an honorable mention. And then Benjamin St-Juste, another defensive honorable mention in this game. I thought St-Juste is another guy that is gaining confidence, and that's what you want to see with the young fellas. I think Samuel Cosmi is gaining confidence. I think De'Ami Brown is gaining confidence. Jamin Davis is gaining confidence, and I think Benjamin St-Juste is gaining confidence as well. Remember, week 1 wasn't all peaches and cream. It wasn't rosy. It wasn't sweet for Benjamin St-Juste. A lot of people were coming at him, talking about he was being targeted, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a rookie. And that's what you do. You go after young guys. If you've got a veteran receiver that you trust to win, you go after the young guys, and that's what the Chargers did. And I thought he had good coverage a lot of time. It was just better throws. But he was locked in week 2, made some good tackles, good pass breakups, including the last third down, the first time we forced a 3 and out in the second half. Benjamin St-Juste in man-to-man coverage, essentially. Zone converts to man on that particular play. Jones rolls out. Darius Slayton comes back to the football, but can't get his other foot inbounds. Again, a lot of plays in the game where we saw Benjamin St-Juste make some good plays, some pass breakups. I thought he was incredible, for bouncing back from a week where he was targeted big time. And I thought we saw, again, much like I said with Heineke, you want to see guys battle adversity, come out on the other side better because of it. Felt that way about Juice in this football game. So you get to the duds in this game. I thought the entire secondary, sans for Benjamin St-Juste, were duds. Bobby McCain was terrible in this game. On the Saquon Barkley 41-yard run, I didn't think he took a great angle. Then, and to compound matters and make them worse, he misses the tackle that sprung Barkley for 41 yards. On the Daniel Jones touchdown run that was called back, Landon Collins, awful angle on that play. As a matter of fact, he comes crashing down, bites on the back. His responsibility is outside contained on that play. He has no business chasing the backside. He should be staying outside waiting for Daniel Jones to keep that football. He comes crashing down. Jones reads him, pulls the ball out, takes off, and ultimately gets in the end zone. Luckily enough for us, they called the receiver board for holding. But Landon Collins, I thought, was really tough. He had a holding penalty on the third down against tight end Kyle Rudolph that extended the drive on third down when we were going to get off the field. He blew coverage on what would have been a back-breaking touchdown to Darius Slayton, wide open. William Jackson III is expecting help over the top, inside, and Landon Collins bites on a dig route on the tight end, and you can see it on the TV copy. Landon Collins puts his hands on his head like, damn, I blew it. And luckily enough, that ball finds the turf. Landon Collins was awful in this game, and he's got to be better. William Jackson III, I thought he made some plays. I think he's going to be a dog for us. I love this guy. Love what he's bringing to the table. He's handsy. We've seen that already. He's been flagged in each of the first 2 games for penalties, for contact down the field. He got flagged in this game after getting beat by Kenny Golladay on a route. But I'd much rather him do that than give up the touchdown. They ultimately had to settle for a field goal. He also was flagged on the third down when we were going to get off the field on the same route that Jamin Davis didn't bite on, that whip route where you go in and then you pivot back outside. He did, go too far. He didn't feel like he had enough to get back in and make the tackle. I think he didn't even need to do that to hold him. I think he would have been able to get to Sterling Shepard had he caught it and get him down before the first down. It was 3rd and 6. He would have caught that thing about 3 yards short of the sticks. I think he could have got to him and made the tackle, but he panicked, grabbed him. They called it. It was the right call. And then, of course, he gave up the touchdown to Darius Slayton. It was a perfect ball from Daniel Jones. But I thought he made his fair share of plays throughout the course of the game. But he wasn't good. He wasn't good enough in this game. He needs to be better as well. And same thing can be said for Kendall Fuller. I didn't think Kendall Fuller played his best football either in this game. He tripped on a play. I talked about this, a 3rd and 12 or 15. He trips on the play, had an opportunity. I thought he would have been in really good coverage had he not tripped, but he did trip. He grabs on to Sterling Shepard. They throw the flag. It's the right call. Gives them a first down on 3rd and 15. That's a backbreaker. You can't afford to commit those types of penalties. I thought at times he was too soft in coverage, giving up things underneath. Almost got beat on a deep ball by Kenny Golladay, just a little bit too far out of the outstretched arms of Golladay, but he was still in phase and was able to then break it up once Golladay wasn't able to really corral it. So I thought that Kendall Fuller wasn't terrible, but he needs to be better, and I think we need to tighten up in zone coverage. Too many times our zone coverage is too loose and accessible for these receivers to catch the football and then get up the field after the catch is made. Another dud for me is the start to the game. For the second week in a row, Washington starts the game very slowly, and the opponent gets off to a blazing start. So Washington got off to a slow start against the Chargers. They marched it right down the field, got into the end zone, set the tone for the game, 7-0. Washington's offense doesn't respond to that. They go 3 and out, give it right back to the Chargers offense. Giants game, you fast forward a week. Washington gets the football first. They go 3 and out, including a sack on 3rd down as Heineke tries to extend and falls down and gets sacked. Meanwhile, the Giants get the football, and they march it right down the field, score a touchdown. We then get the football again on the second drive. We go 3 and out again. Giants get the football. They march it down the field, luckily enough for us. They pick up a false start penalty, and then Montez Sweat bags quarterback Daniel Jones and knocks them out of field goal range. So, and you could argue they could have still kicked it. I think if that would have happened in the second half after they had already seen Gano bang it home from like 55 and 52, he might have elected to kick that field goal early in the game. But again, that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is they were moving the football with great efficiency, and we were the direct opposite, stalling out after 3 plays 2 times. So we need to get off to faster starts. We can't keep spotting teams, 7 and 10 points and then trying to, play catch up. And we've done it in both weeks where we've essentially narrowed the lead or taken the lead against the Chargers. The score was 13-9 at the halftime break, I believe. And in this game, the score was 14-10. Washington was up, but that was after trailing for the entire first half for the most part. It was 7-7 at one point. Giants then take the lead again at 10-7. And so Washington needs to do a better job of starting games a lot faster. These slow starts are getting old and tired. It reminds me of last year. We always started games slow. We fell behind. We made adjustments. We made adjustments at halftime. I don't even know if we really did make adjustments or not. Just always played better in the third quarter to give us a chance in the fourth. I'd like to see them start faster, take a lead, and actually be able to do some different things like run the football and maybe set up some opportunities to take shots down the field. Either way, that's studs and duds for week number 2 versus the New York Giants. We'll have studs and duds next week and every week moving forward where there's a game with the Washington football team. I thank you guys for being valued members of the MOBB. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys tonight on the show. And so until next time, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.